Chiefs Kingdom, I know you have noticed the huge turnover that is going on with the Carolina Panthers. Today we are going to focus on two superstars that might be key additions for the Kansas City Chiefs through this 2022 NFL season and could make them Super Bowl champions again. But before we dive into that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. Now, before we get into this hypothetical scenarios and these imaginary situations that could potentially happen with the trade between the Carolina Panthers and the Kansas City Chiefs, we're going to focus on some realistic stuff, and I'm going to keep you up to date on the news that happened today regarding the Chiefs injury report, because it is Buffalo Bills week. This is probably going to be one of the biggest, if not biggest, games of the year. It is the heavyweight rematch of the AFC divisional game. You know the Bills are going to come in Arrowhead hungry and ready to avenge their loss. Now, we did get a key, huge update with Trent McDuffie and Harrison Butker. They both did participate in practice today. In what kind of fashion, I am not sure yet on that. I would imagine maybe limited participation. With Trent McDuffie, we're not going to know because he's still on IR and he hasn't been designated to come back. So what does that mean? It means that he won't be on the injury report until he is actually on the active roster. We know he was just at practice today. Harrison Butker, we missed you, man. If you are able to be in this game, 100% healthy, that is, so you will be a huge addition. It is funny. We take advantage of the kickers, and we have solely missed one of our key aces on the special team. It would be great to see him back this week. If not, we will probably roll with Matthew Wright, which had his huge inconsistencies, but he drilled the longest field goal in KC history, so you got to give that for what it's worth too. But it's good to see two huge names coming back because they will be needed in this game. Now, as for the injury report, it's getting kind of lengthy. It's really kind of bad, but also too, at the end of the day, the bye week is after the San Fran game, so it gives them time to get right. But at the end of the day, I want to say, if you guys didn't see the news with Wharton, he did tear his ACL, so he is on IR. So, who did they bring up? I know who they released because I almost said his name who they brought up. It was Broughton, who they released off the practice squad. Wow, I am drawing a huge blank. I am so sorry about that, but it will be on the screen and we will get that right. But there was a lot of limited participants that will be on the screen as well. Hopefully they are all able to go against the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to analyze this game further tomorrow because, like I mentioned, this is the game we all been waiting for. And it's kind of crazy to think that it's a CBS game. Like, how do we not make this game a primetime game? This should definitely be a primetime game. It should have been a Sunday night or Monday night game, but hey, we're going to get it midday for you East Coasters. You will get it almost at nighttime around 4 o'clock, but whatever it's going to be, it'll probably be the game of the week, and I will keep you guys in tune. But with that, it's time for some hypothetical scenarios, because I will be real with you right now. This is probably not going to happen, but when the Kansas City Chiefs have trade rumors, I'm your guy that's going to be over these hypothetical scenarios because, hey, I love these imaginary type of things, and I want to see if it could be realistic. And there is a sense of me that it can be realistic and things could happen, but at the end of the day, I just don't know. So we're going to discuss a little bit more about DJ Moore and Brian Burns. Let's get right into that. So with me tinkering around with my new camera, playing with YouTube and things like that, what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this a who would you rather want the Kansas City Chiefs to trade for, a Brian Burns or a DJ Moore. I'm going to leave a poll, and then once I post my video tomorrow, we're going to see what the Kingdom thinks who would be a better addition. We're going to discuss it, have fun with it, and then we're going to go right into Bills week. But with that, what we're going to do here today is we're going to discuss the type of impact these players can have if they were traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, what it would cost, and as all around what it would cost, like money-wise and everything like that, and if it is really a possibility. Now, the first one we're going to discuss is DJ Moore. I'm going to discuss DJ Moore too because I'm going to hurt Chiefs Kingdom here a little bit because I think that's the less likely one to happen. I know Chiefs Kingdom is clamoring for more wide receivers because they're concerned with the wide receiver production. I've seen it on comments here, social media, and things like that. But you gotta be used to it, honestly, because if you focused on the Chiefs definitely throughout the Andy Reid era, this playbook takes some time. And honestly, I've been quite impressed with what the receivers are doing. Last week, again, it's nothing too sexy. It's nothing too amazing, but MVS puts up 90 yards. Mecole Hardman had a really good game on his hurt heel with 75 yards. And Juju made some great physical, impressive catches. They are learning, they are grasping this playbook, and you could tell week in and week out they are getting better. Now, all you can hope for is against the Buffalo Bills that it's the breakout game that they all explode. And like I mentioned too, if the Kansas City Chiefs are scoring touchdowns, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. Like if the receivers are driving the ball down the field and Kelsey's still scoring 4 touchdowns, take it. Yeah, I understand it could be quite concerning when a Juju, an MVS, and Mecole Hardman combined only have 1 TD. And I'm not going to exclude Sky Moore either because at the end of the game, you saw he was getting involved too. Those reps are going to keep continuing more and more. But I'm not going to lie to you. If the Kansas City Chiefs made a trade for DJ Moore, I would be ecstatic on it. Like, who wouldn't be? Like, yes, his numbers are down this year, but who in Carolina isn't down this year? It is a complete mess that's going on over there. And we have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield and then Sam Darnold, even though I know he hasn't played this year, but the inconsistency at that QB position, of course, things aren't going to be perfect, and your numbers are going to take a huge dive. So I'm not really going to focus on that. But then again, we should. Because in years past, he's never really had a complete solid QB play. He might have had, was he there when Cam Newton had good years? But at the end of the day, nothing has ever been that consistent for DJ Moore. And now if you put him in the lights of this offense, that would be scary. But again, I think he would let a lot of Chiefs Kingdom down because Chiefs Kingdom would expect the immediate impact. And those sexy numbers wouldn't come this year. You would definitely have him as an extension, and just think about that receiving room moving forward. You would have DJ Moore. I definitely think they would bring Juju back because he's very well rounded. They love him in the locker room, and his numbers will pick up, guys. Once he scores the 1 touchdown, they will just keep falling. Don't be too concerned with it. Like I mentioned, this system is so hard to learn. Be impressed with what they are doing now because when they take off, you're going to be like, wow. This team is looking very, very scary. And then you got MVS on the 3-year deal, which honestly, he's looking like the best receiver in the room right now to me. And then Sky Moore as a rookie. Just imagine those 4 together. Because I don't know if Mecole will come back. I don't know what would happen down the line either. But if you bring a DJ Moore in, he would be one of Mahomes, if not his best wide receiver in his career. Because I do believe a repertoire with him would be very, very scary. Now, people are going to be like, well, what about Hill? Hill will always be number 1. That's why I said one of the best. DJ Moore has talent, and he has really good talent. He's like one of those sneaky guys that are underrated with the Terry McLaurin because they never had really good quarterback consistent play. Imagine him with Mahomes. It would be amazing to see. Again, I think this one would be one of the most unlikely ones to happen. And also, too, you got to focus in on Kansas City's cap space, too. It's very tight, and I say focus on it, but at the end of the day, KC makes things happen when they shouldn't happen. They can make the $20 in my bank account get DJ Moore and Brian Burns combined. So don't be too concerned about that at all. It would be more of the draft capital, which is what you're willing to give up, and what Carolina wants to give away. And I think that's what would make the Carolina Panthers and Kansas City Chiefs really, really good trade partners because Carolina has no draft capital whatsoever. Kansas City has 13 draft picks next year. We all know they don't need all those draft picks. So they can easily bundle some package deal and trade for either a DJ Moore or a Brian Burns. For a DJ Moore, maybe at most I'd go a 3rd round pick, but it's weird with the wide receiver market because you get guys like Tyreek, who is a 2nd, and Davante is a 2nd, even though Tyreek was a huge package, but then you get like an Amari for a 5th round pick. The wide receiver market is so scarce and in between that you can steal guys. I do believe it would take 2 picks because, like I mentioned, Carolina's rebuilding. They might have the number 1 overall pick. They would hopefully get their new successor at quarterback, their new face of the franchise, and build the team. So I think it'll take a couple of picks for both of these guys. I just think DJ Moore would be on the lesser end where you wouldn't have to give up too much. But at the end of the day, you're also dealing with his contract right now, which would be an immediate impact, unlike Brian Burns, which we'll get into right now. Now, Brian Burns is the guy I mostly want to focus on. And it's crazy because you guys know I'm an offensive guru, a freak when it comes to wide receivers. So you think I would lean towards DJ Moore. But I don't know. Brian Burns, I would give up as much, maybe a late one, because we know Kansas City will be late into the playoffs, if not Super Bowl contenders, or our second round pick, because he is an immediate impact, unlike DJ Moore. And if you pair him in the future on the other side with a George Karlaftis and Chris Jones, which I believe Chris Jones will get a contract extension, they're not going to let him go anywhere. That pairing with him and Joe Cullen, our new defensive line coach, has been beautiful. That D-line would be so scary. And again, initially looking at it, it looks like Brian Burns' numbers are down. Again, everyone in Carolina's numbers look down. But also, too, one thing that's very up and he's top 5 in is quarterback pressure still. He is still getting after the quarterback. He is still a stud, and he is still someone to be reckoned with that Lions have to game plan against. And now that we see George Karlaftis' game coming together where his hurries and his pressures have always been there, but now that he's recorded his first sack, like I mentioned with touchdowns, those will just continue to fall. And then you basically take a guy off of Chris Jones, which you would love to see because Chris Jones will be double teamed. And if he's still double teamed, that means you're getting a solo battle between Burns or Karlaftis. This line would feast and eat. Again, I think this would be the one where it's the most immediate impact, and then you sign him to that contract extension because that's what's up to. And for pass rushers, they are well deserved and they need it too. And I would pay him the big bucks because it just shows, like I mentioned, yeah, the sack numbers aren't there, but the pressures are, and he's still getting after the quarterback, and he's still playing very, very hungry for a team he knows is probably the worst team in the NFL. That motor is something you love to see, and it's something that excites me too, because I don't usually like to look towards the draft for these type of guys, even though we got a great slide and a great gem in George Karlaftis. That does not happen every year when you're picking 30th to 32nd. It just does not happen. And Kansas City does not have 2 first-round picks where they could solidify both spots where they did with Trent McDuffie and Karlaftis. You definitely have to strike right away and early first. So I'm just saying, if you have a late first-round pick and you go after Brian Burns, that's something that is so enticing for this year and the future moving forward too. Now I know it would put a lot of Chiefs Kingdom in pause because when you think of trading away a first-round draft pick for a pass rusher, you think of Frank Clark, which I want y'all to put some respect on his name because at the end of the day, I know he left the game early sick with his stomach issues that he tends to have, and it's so unfortunate, but he was having an amazing game against the Raiders, and he looks so good. And with his contract being up, I wouldn't be too mad if Kansas City brought him in like as a rotational pass rusher, kind of what they do with Carlos Dunlap. Now, I'm not saying he's at that point of his career or age-wise where he deserves to be a rotational pass rusher, but if he wants to stay on a championship caliber team and then he rotates with a Brian Burns and a George Karlaftis, that is a scary, if not elite D-line moving forward. That excites me more than this wide receiver room because at the end of the day, let's say it only took a second-round pick to get Brian Burns. Well, not just a second, but a second and a couple of picks. Let's say you don't have to give up your first. That means you could still go in the first round after what looks to be another deep wide receiver draft class. And you wouldn't have to worry about getting in DJ Moore. And you could spend your first round pick on a wide receiver, even if it is late. We know at the end of the day, with how deep wide receiver draft classes be, there is still always talent at the end of the round. That would be where I would want to spend my pick too. And you just get Mahomes' input and be like, hey, I want that guy. And you let him build a repertoire with him. And then you have 4 solid wide receivers moving forward. Brian Burns seems like the right pick to me, Chiefs Kingdom. But you let me know who you are feeling. I will have the poll before this video airs. And then you can discuss it in the comments down below. But who would you rather have? Brian Burns, DJ Moore? Let's have fun with it. Before I do sign off, I love the support that you guys do give me. Please do subscribe to the channel. I will keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related, of course, that you do not want to miss out on, and it is Bills week. We are going to dive full head of steam tomorrow with it, so you do not want to miss out on that. And oh yeah, please be sure to give me that big thumbs up. Y'all take care. Peace.